So all the data in the world can be so granular, but you could just totally miss the mark if you're not asking the right questions.
Hi, my name is Courtney, and welcome to How They Scaled It, where scaling is done with both sides of the brain. On this show, we sit down with growth stage businesses and speak to the founders and industry leaders from e commerce and the SaaS sectors. We showcase their journeys, unpacking pivotal moments, marketing strategies, and key decisions that have really shaped their success. That's why I've brought on Alex Persson. Alex is an experienced business leader in e commerce known for scaling businesses through strategic acquisitions and growth initiatives. As a former CEO of WeCommerce, he expanded the company's portfolio of Shopify-focused tools, but currently he's at the helm of Privy, which highlights his experience in leveraging email and SMS to drive conversions for small businesses. I wanted him to help us understand how to build a SaaS brand and how e-commerce brands can really scale using retention marketing. Alex, it is great to see you and welcome to How They Scaled It.
Thank you so much, Courtney. It's wonderful to be here.
You've been with Privy for not too long, just since the beginning of this year. How has that transition been?
It has been in some ways extremely easy. And the reason for that is I stepped into what is one of the most customer centric organizations I've ever seen. And when you have that core ingredient, the customer centricity, you put the customer at the forefront of everything that you do, it makes my job a lot easier. So I'll give you an example. We are known for that hands-on support, especially for small businesses that usually don't get that hands-on support, some of the larger players in the ecosystem. And because of that, people on our team get invited to our merchants' weddings. We have people on our team being flown out to meet brands, all because of that human connection, which is very tough to get,
Mhm.
especially in the online realm that many businesses operate in. And so that makes my job a lot easier. On top of that, we have a really experienced team, a really aligned vision. And again, that makes everything easy. That being said, it's the old adage of the days are long, the years are short. That's absolutely the case here.
Yeah, no, that's I can attest to that. So full disclosure, we actually use Privy for a lot of our clients, and it's kind of our go-to email marketing platform. And that really is because it's so easy to get in touch with people at Privy. We really can't do that with something like MailChimp or Constant Contact. I can verify that what you're saying is true, that you guys definitely have really good personal touch overall. So that's
That's great to
wonderful to
hear.
hear. How are you maintaining that culture then? It sounds like you have a really good culture of this personal touch with your customers, but you also have a really good culture of innovation. I feel like every day you guys have new things kind of coming out and new tools going. So how do you maintain that culture while also scaling?
Yeah. And in a way, they have to go hand in hand in that customers are never satisfied. And that is a great way to keep you honest and keep your product honest because they will be your best critics. How we maintain that kind of culture of innovation, certainly this year, and we have a lot more rolling out over the next few weeks and months here, is leveraging that customer centric culture allows us to have such a good pulse on customer problems.
Mhm.
And having that dialogue means we're hearing everything and anything in any given day about improvements, things that should be working a different way within our product. But also, we're constantly hearing people's problems. And that is really what we're there to solve, whether that be in email, SMS marketing, or list growth, or elsewhere. Really, what we're here for is to solve customer problems. And we're not afraid to put things out there that might not resonate. We're
Yeah.
totally fine with failure, and we keep a really high bar for what we put out in our platform. We often build with our customers hand in hand. And so anytime we're on the phone or I'm on the phone with a merchant, I'll pull up our demo account, I'll pull up mock-ups and just say, what do you think about this? And because we have that existing trust, that open dialogue, ideas flow really freely between
Mhm.
Privy and its merchants.
Yeah, no, that is really interesting because it seems like your customer service almost drives your innovation. And I think a lot of times tech companies have that backwards where they assume they know what the customer wants and they're building what they think is going to be cool. But it sounds like that's really coming from your customers and really listening to what they want, which is something I think a lot of people can learn from.
Yeah, I'd say one thing to add is, especially in technology companies where you can kind of measure everything. You can measure who used what feature, who visited what page. There is an unfortunate tendency that I call the kind of data tail wagging the dog. So you see these metrics, but you're so divorced from the context about why things are happening this way that if you're building really data driven products, you can totally miss the mark because you're trying to incentivize a metric to go up. And that might be completely orthogonal to how a merchant expects to use your application or expects to get results from it. So we almost don't use any of that and instead just really listen to the customer, hire people with good judgment and intuition. And frankly, my job is to get out of the way.
Yeah, it's when you think about what is successful for, or like what you use to measure success within Privy as an email SMS platform. What are the things that you're looking for to say like this is working really well? We are happy with this, or this isn't working well.
Yeah, it's really similar to what any brand or any merchant is measuring, which
Mhm.
is engagement and retention. What percentage of your user base is actually using your product daily, weekly, monthly, and not just logging in, but we keep track of how many people send an email newsletter weekly. How do
Mhm.
we continue to help people build that habit? That's one of the use cases we're looking at. The data is really helpful because it holds us accountable. We know that continued engagement is a very healthy metric for us to monitor. And on the flip side, it's as simple as, are people coming back? We have a monthly subscription. That means we have to show value every single month, or else they're going to opt out. I mean,
Right.
it's a funny thing. If Netflix stops putting out new content, you'll stick around for a month or two or three, but eventually you're going to get tired of it. You're not getting recurring value, and you're going to leave.
Mhm.
And that helps keep us again accountable. Of every single month, we have to prove our value, and it's the same thing is true with stores. Repeat business is the lifeblood of a lot of these merchants. And so driving engagement and keeping customers coming back is really how we measure success.
Yeah, we are very similar in that all of our contracts are also month to month. And so for us, it just incentivizes us to be on the ball all the time. Like you can't have bad months really. And it kind of gets everybody on the same page about never being complacent about the work that you're doing, which is something I appreciate. And it also is really great for the customer because they don't have these long-term, scary, risky commitments. And luckily for you, you're showing value each month. You can very easily show like you sent these emails, you got this revenue. So it's very easy to prove your ROI, which I think is probably pretty helpful for a lot of your customers.
Yep, it certainly helps. And then we try to release things monthly as well to give a reason, give people a reason to come back. Because email marketing could be set and forget it. You could set up your displays, you could set up your automations, and you'll make money while you sleep, but you're also
Yeah.
leaving a lot of money on the table if you're not actively in the product every single week.
Yeah. What would you say is the biggest challenge that you have with Privy or really any kind of SaaS company?
It seems like every year there are new entrants kind of vying for
Yeah.
your customers. That's just the nature of competition.
Mhm.
And I think one of the hardest part is, how do you differentiate? How do you stand out as a company? And our biggest driver of growth is word of mouth. But how do you scale word of mouth truly? How do you
Mhm.
market word of mouth? Because everyone can say you have hands-on support, everyone has testimonials, everyone has case studies, but how do you actually get differentiated in the market besides having happy customers? And so I think about that a lot. How do we, because it's the same thing for our merchants. There are, we serve 10,000 merchants. How do they stand out?
Mhm.
How do they market themselves as a brand that's not just a product on an Amazon search page, but there's actually a founder with a really interesting story behind that brand? And so what I like to do is just really lean into what Privy is known for, what it stands for, and put it out there. And it's not for everybody, but it should really resonate. And that's one of the hardest part, is just vying for people's attention.
Yeah, I know that we run into that issue a lot with our clients where they come to us and they say, we're so good. Like our number one acquisition channel is word of mouth, like referrals. but we need to find like more consistent channels, really. What I always say is that it's so great that you're starting with good word of mouth because that means you have a good product. If that wasn't your number one source of referrals, then we would have a problem. So you're starting from a great place because you have a proven product. So now it's just about finding the different platforms and ways to amp up that word of mouth.
Exactly. Otherwise, you're just pushing a boulder up a hill.
Yeah.
It's never going to get easier if you have something that, you know, isn't quite resonating with your customers. And so it's, you got to find promise market fit. So
Mhm.
what that means is your marketing promise resonating with people? It might be okay that your product's not there yet, but is the value proposition is what you're selling getting a lot of people really interested? And then you can iterate on the product, what you're offering, until you can back up that promise that you're making.
Yeah, it's almost like using marketing as focus groups. It's the cheapest
Yeah,
focus group you'll ever have,
exactly.
but just seeing like what people want and then building a product around that. It's pretty smart, especially if you can do it quickly and like execute.
Exactly.
I know you can't get into the specifics too much about the acquisitions that you've made under WeCommerce, but I did want to pick your brain a little bit about generally how you think about acquisitions. I know WeCommerce's focus was on acquiring Shopify partner businesses, and that's pretty niche. Did you learn any lessons about how to identify the right markets or segments to scale into during that time?
Yeah, it actually, a lot of it comes back to what I call like founder craft.
Hmm.
And so what I mean by that is, does the founder have almost like an excellent reflex such that every part of the organization you touch is at a really high caliber?
Mm,
And otherwise, as you peel back the onion while you're looking at acquisition or afterward, you'll find things that make your life a lot harder. And so a
hmm.
good example of this is if the founder is spending all of his or her time on just the product, but isn't spending any time on sales, marketing, customer support, guess what? As soon as that acquisition is done, the founder often leaves. They're usually doing the jobs of five people because that's
Yeah.
just what you have to do as a founder. And then you have pretty weak company
Mm,
because you might have a good product, but it's stopped if the founder only focused on that, never really hired or developed leaders within the organization.
mhm.
That is, all the metrics could look great, but if you don't have really top-notch teams in every part of the business, it's hard to sustain that momentum after acquisition. But
Yeah.
for any acquisition, I always look at the same things too, which is engagement and retention. That
Yeah.
gives you so much color on the actual business. You have to look at, is there a path to profitability? Do the unit economics make sense? How differentiated is this? Is this a nice to have or is it a must have?
Mhm.
What's the competition? There's a bunch of things you need to look at. But if I could boil it down, it's really about, is there an A plus team and just permeating the company? Because then chances are they haven't taken shortcuts in the
Right.
product. They haven't discounted their product heavily to get to hit a sales number. They're actually thinking long term. And that is the ultimate, judge of any sort of acquisition because you're buying these things for kind of forever, whether
Yeah.
that's your plan or not. You have to go into that mindset.
Yeah. And also, is the team sticky? And if they are an A plus team and they've put in all this effort, they probably are invested in the future of that product. So you want them to stick around and not leave after a couple of months or kind of work that
Exactly.
into your acquisition plan. People make or break it, no matter what you're doing.
Always, for better, for worse.
Yeah. Is there any approach that you have to balancing growth via acquisition versus organic? I'm sure you're growing in both ways usually, but how do you balance that? Hmm.
Growth by acquisition is inherently riskier strategy.
Hmm.
I think done well, it can really be transformative. And it's a muscle that a lot of companies don't often exercise. Salesforce is a great example of this. They have grown tremendously by acquisition, and they are not afraid to make big bets. And not all of them are going to pan out, but they have a really good muscle
Hmm.
about acquisitions. Shopify, on the other hand, hasn't really done a lot of acquisitions, and then not all of them have panned out, as we saw with the foray into fulfillment. But recently, what's been interesting is Shopify has been acquiring kind of partners in the ecosystem. They bought checkout blocks, they bought a handful of, I would say, smaller businesses, and given those people an immense amount of autonomy within Shopify's product organization. And I think for Shopify, that's a great thing to do. You're getting really good product leaders into the company, pushing the envelope with a pulse on what merchants are looking for next. I think there's a lot of reasons that people convince themselves that acquisitions are a good idea, but you need to have a process. You need to exercise your muscle and you need to be crystal clear why you're doing this and
Yeah.
what the metrics for success are down the road. I think one of the mistakes that people often have is pushing the acquired business a lot in the first year because
Hmm.
maybe the person who sold the deal internally has metrics they got to hit, right? They
Right.
presented a forecast to the board or to their CEO, and there's a lot of pressure for those new acquisitions to deliver. But if you give people time, if you allow the businesses to actually compound, you get to a point where you take a LinkedIn as an example. That was bought a long time ago and it just keeps compounding, compounding, and is now a massive, massive business and a hugely successful.
Hmm.
But it's partly because there wasn't, they had time to figure it out exactly what post acquisition LinkedIn would look like, and now they're seeing the dividends from it.
Yeah, I think that a lot of times when people think about acquisitions, they feel like it's this magic bullet where you can like double your business's size overnight. And like,
Yeah,
and that's just such a skewed way of looking at it because it's a ton of work to acquire a business and integrate it if you're doing the full integration with your company. And that takes time. The people take time. And there's always skeletons that you discover
as
post
always said.
acquisition.
Yeah, and it's a massive distraction. The opportunity cost is massive.
Yeah, it seems like it's one of those things where it's like if you can be patient with it and be really thoughtful around the process, then it will pay off. But organic growth is always going to be like a really it's your strongest side. It's kind of like search engine optimization. It's like you just kind of always have to be doing it on the back end over time, and then it pays off massively in the long run. But I think people get so excited about acquisitions because it's big numbers and all of that.
It's big numbers and it makes a lot of sense in a spreadsheet. But more lies have been told in a spreadsheet than in a Word document. So people get carried away.
Yeah, there's so many ways of cutting the data to make it say exactly what you want it to.
Exactly.
Do you see any trends shaping the future of e-commerce tools and platforms over the next 3 to 5 years, specifically within like email and SMS marketing? Or I guess you have experience in all tools, but
Yeah, I think what's going to be really interesting is when you're looking at acquisitions or just generally investments in the future, what is it that you're getting?
Mhm.
Because the cost of software development is declining rapidly with the advent of tools that are being put out by OpenAI and
Yeah.
Anthropic's, Claude model. So if the cost of software development is declining precipitously, what does that do to the acquisition environment? Because in some cases, you're buying legacy code, legacy decisions, and it's going to be faster, cheaper, better
Mhm.
to build it from scratch rather than
Mhm.
acquiring that capability. So I think you need a lot of things to check the box for an acquisition to make sense and you
Mhm.
start having more serious conversations. So that's a huge trend. And I think the second trend is just generally when you're dealing with small businesses, and we see this with a lot of companies serving small businesses, the economics are such that you need to sell more than one thing
Right.
to those people, right? If Shopify was just selling subscriptions, there was no app store, they outsourced payments to somebody, it'd be a massively smaller company. You get from, selling one product to small businesses to five, all of a sudden it becomes a really compelling, compounding machine. And so I think a lot of point solutions that may have grown to 20, 30, $50 million of revenue
Mhm.
are really looking for that next act. How do I double my business? How do I triple my business? And where is that going to come from, really?
That aligns really well with kind of what we see in e-com, like for, selling physical products where a lot of times companies will come to us and they'll have like one hero product. And we're like, it's amazing that you have one product that everybody wants, but we need to get your order value up. Your average cart size needs to be much larger in order for you to run ads, upsells, having small products to add on, and then also not relying on one single product because you never know when that thing will fall apart or get beat out by a competitor. So diversifying what you're offering is going to set you up for the long term. That makes total sense.
Yeah. We have a wonderful investor who is a longtime marketer, kind of,
Mhm.
has been part of companies from the very beginning and taken them public. And he always told me the key to success is just sell more things to happy people,
Yeah.
your happy customers.
Mhm.
You've already earned their trust. The hard part is over. They know you. You've acquired that customer. You've paid a lot to acquire them. You've paid to retain them. They want to buy more from you. And sometimes you need to keep that in mind when you're thinking about doubling down on your core product or expanding into adjacent areas. You kind of need to juggle both. If you don't invest in your core, competition will come in, you'll fall behind.
Mhm.
If you don't invest in adjacent products, you're never going to grow.
Right. And that actually leads us very well into kind of the next few questions I want to ask about more of the Privy side with email marketing and SMS, because what you're talking about essentially is retention. So taking your existing customer base and making them more valuable to you. In your experience with Privy, what are the key factors that separate high performing email campaigns from average ones, specifically in the e-commerce space?
It sounds cliche, but you got to give people something. You got to send something people want to open. You got to
Yeah.
send something that's actually compelling,
Mhm.
right? I mean, the amount of emails people get is only increasing. It seems like weekly. And so we have this wonderful merchant that the husband makes the product and the wife does all the sales and marketing, kind of day to day running the business. And their open rates, their click rates, their order rates are through the roof because they sell a super niche product. They only talk about that product and what's coming down the pipe. And their Labor Day sales are astronomical, and it's a small business, but it's very much because the content matches the audience. It is this accessory to the best selling product. They just launched it. It's 25% off for the next month because we just
Mhm.
launched it. Want to get it in the hands of people. And they're writing their content as if it's tailored to just one person. And I think that is so much easier to do than trying to write ambiguous content, which you inherently get to if you're trying to communicate with 10,000 people. I
Mhm.
mean, how do you do that? But if you write for one person, you really study that person, you can write hyper personalized, targeted emails, targeted subject lines. You don't need to A B test your way out of this. You don't need to think about what's the best time to send. And it's all about kind of having a compelling offer that resonates with your audience. That's it. That's
Yeah.
like, it's simple. That doesn't mean it's easy, but it's
Mhm.
simple.
Well, it what's great about it is that it comes from a place of authenticity. So if you're speaking to your customers because you care about them and you know who they are, and you might have, four or five different avatars, maybe you just have one or two, but you're able to segment your emails and speak authentically to each of them, which is actually so much easier than obsessing about what time of the day to send, A/B testing, obsessing over like minor differences in your open rate. Like it's just so much more about just talking to somebody. I will say that like in our experience, the businesses that do the best have an authentic founder and has someone who actually cares about the thing that they're making. So translating that into an email marketing strategy, it's a lot easier than you think because it's just communication, which you're already doing.
Exactly. And so you got to lean into your strengths, which is you're a founder run brand. You can afford to be authentic. You don't have corporate communication departments editing and kind of butchering your emails. It's just lean into your authenticity, experiment. Chances are most people aren't going to see that first email and just keep trying. The good news is you'll see the engagement pick up. You'll see the sales come in. And it's all about not just leading with offers, but actually leaning with education about who you are as a brand and what makes you different.
And I think that's also a really important note for founders, people who are just getting into email marketing. I think a lot of us just say, oh, what are the competitors doing? Like, what is my best competitor doing? And then just kind of ripping off what they're doing and seeing if you can get the same success. And that almost never works. It's always helpful to see what they're talking about, like what content they're talking about, but just ripping someone off and just copying what your competitor's doing, it's just such a short-term solution. And you really want to be thinking long-term, how are we actually different from these guys? Let's not present ourselves as the same. Let's
Yeah.
present ourselves as different.
And I think that's the hard part about, online brands is thinking that you don't have that customer connection because maybe you haven't met your customers.
Yeah.
And so you're just emailing them, but you don't really know who they are. And so we spent a lot of time at Privy just helping people understand who their audience is. Because some people you just don't know. They come into the internet, they buy your product, you don't know who they are. That's why it's so helpful to just pick anybody that ordered from you recently. Doesn't
Mhm.
matter who they are. And just try to study as and learn as much as you possibly can about that one person. Like really. And then that allows you to write those personalized emails. It allows you to say, oh, well, if this person bought for the grandparent, like chances are there's more people like this. And is that something we can really lead into? But without that kind of studying one customer, you're not going to get those interesting insights.
We also find that once you've kind of studied a few customers and done your customer research, and you can do this by looking at reviews and seeing what people are talking about, finding trends there. We also like sending a survey to all customers, or maybe the top 20% of customers, which you can do like just send a mass email and offer them like maybe a discount or something. But that's going to be really good data to ask them questions like, why did you buy this? Is there anything that almost stopped you from buying this? Do you like using our website? Asking those types of questions to help guide what your emails should be about and just be more relevant to the customer.
Yeah, which is why a lot of merchants are increasingly using post-purchase surveys.
Yes.
And those are, they seem easy or rudimentary, but man, are they effective. The opt-in rate is so high. You already have a lot of customer context that you can then tie back to those survey responses. Back at WeCommerce, they acquired No Commerce, which is one of the
Yeah.
leading post-purchase survey providers. And Jeremiah, the founder, shared this great story about a brand in the Midwest was spending a fortune on Facebook ads, and they were selling almost those like Taylor Swift friendship bracelets.
Yeah. Yeah.
And the buyer was, according to their data, was 45-year-old kind of moms from the Midwest.
Hmm.
Well, who are they buying for? They're buying for teenage daughters. And they didn't realize that until they added a question in the post-purchase survey, like, who are you buying for today? So all the data in the world can be so granular, but you could just totally miss the mark if you're not asking the right questions.
And then that's going to change, what your ads look like. Now, all of a sudden, you can speak directly to that. You can make emails that feature teenage girls instead of, these Midwestern moms. Like, it's so powerful. And it's cheap too. Like these post purchase surveys, like it's not expensive, and you collect data really fast too, especially if you're making a lot of purchases. So, well, we talked a lot about personalized emails, but automation is a huge element of Privy and email marketing in general. How do you approach the balance between automation and more like human touch emails?
Yeah, it's a great question. I think you can find ways to do both.
Yeah.
Have personalized. I mean, you know probably a lot more about this than I do. You're in the weeds every single day
Yeah.
about this, but I think so much about take a welcome series. It's not just about sending increasingly higher discounts. It's not really always about getting someone to order. It is about welcoming someone to the brand, building engagement. You got to think about what's the purpose of this flow? Is it top funnel, middle of funnel? Abandoned cart is obviously bottom of funnel, and so that can be more transactional. That can be more offer driven. But at the top of the funnel, it's really about awareness. It's about
Hmm.
building that awareness about your brand, what you stand for, your story, what's coming down the pipe, so that when people are in was it the 95% of people are really not looking to buy from you, it's only 5% at any
Hmm.
given time that are actually in the market. We still got to get in front of those 95%. Those are the really important people to get in front of. And leading into who you are, again, that authenticity in flows
Hmm.
is really critical. Leaning into kind of more middle of funnel, and that could be promotional flows, it could be customer win backs, it could be a whole bunch of things. There's ways to be personalized, and there's ways to be increasingly personalized because you're collecting a lot of data about those customers. So you probably should be sending different emails based on, how much they spent. Are the people who spent a lot, they shop from you every month or every quarter and then they disappear? How do you treat those people differently? And how do you automate that category of companies? And that's really what I'm focused on is almost how do you put this on autopilot to some extent, where you build the foundation, but it's really on autopilot in terms of answering Who do I send to? And what do I send? And that's where AI could actually play a huge role in helping merchants easily answer those two questions. So I don't think they're exclusive.
Mhm.
I think you just have to be mindful of where those flows are in the purchase funnel, bottom of funnel, lead with discounts. You're
Yeah.
trying to get their attention to get over the finish line. People need a nudge sometimes. Middle funnel, top of funnel, it's not always about getting someone to buy and seeing that attributed revenue, in your dashboard. It's really not about that. It's about engagement and thinking long term and not being so guided about what was your attributed revenue that day.
We always say, look at your lifetime value, not today. Look at your lifetime value. Is the lifetime value of your customers going up? If so, you're doing a great job. Keep on it. And if it's going down, then that's when you should start freaking out.
Yes, exactly. That's a good, simple way to distill it. Yeah.
Are there any common mistakes that you see ecom brands make with email marketing? Because I imagine you work with a lot of different types of brands, and I'm sure they all come in with the same mistakes.
Yeah. I think it's like our job is to make it, our job is to provide a simple but powerful tool. And we do a lot to try to make it easier every single month about removing friction. Could be templates, could be inspiration. There's a bunch of things that we want just to shorten the time again from inspiration to creation. That doesn't mean you don't need to spend any time on it. It's like anything, garbage in, garbage out. And so spend some time on how your emails look. Spend some time speaking with customer success who want to know who you are as a brand because they can give you much more tailored, actionable advice
Mhm.
because of that. And your email activity, your SMS activity should be like 30 to 40% of your revenue, like
Yeah.
really.
Mhm.
And people come in and say, I know I need to do email marketing. I know I need to do SMS. I don't have time for it. I'm just going to set up an abandoned cart flow. And then they get a little disappointed when they're not
Yeah.
seeing the results. So we really stress like put in the time. We will help you. We will be the coach. We will adjust your strategy along the way, but you got to put in some time. It's just like you're doing with any other parts of your business. You spend more time on it, you will see the results.
Yeah. I mean, it's very similar to like your website. The better your website is, the more purchases you're going to get. I also think that when you think about email marketing, it supercharges everything else you're doing. Anything that you're sending to your website, ideally you have like a pop-up and you're collecting emails. And all of that effort can be like you can get more out of it if you have a really solid welcome flow. So take the time to set it up. And once you set it up, then you don't have to worry about it. You check in on it every once in a while and you check in on your different flows and you send additional
Yeah.
campaigns. It is worth the time at the beginning because you might as well do it right if you're going to do it at all.
And it's sometimes it's 15 minutes,
I know.
it's like really not a lot of time. So we had
Yeah.
this client who sells pretty high, price product. So average order values in the $200 to $500. All we did was kind of redesign they went from a pretty nondescript pop-up that they just kind of set and forget it. And, we made much more of an interactive full screen mini quiz. So we're collecting preferences that then guides them into different flows, essentially. And that just turbocharged both din rates for email and phone numbers. It pushes people much further down the funnel because you're providing a lot more relevant information based on what you're collecting. I think that was probably 15 minutes of work, maybe 30 minutes of work, and has provided tens and tens of thousands of dollars of life of value in the first month, if not more. And so there's a lot. I don't think people see the potential sometimes.
Mhm.
And working hand in hand with experts, even if they're just nudging to do something, you will see the results.
Yeah, I feel like the thing that gets people like stops them is just the idea. It's an unfamiliar concept. They don't know how email marketing works. Like they're not an email marketer. They make this product. And so it's so overwhelming and it feels really scary and it feels like it's going to be this big, daunting task. But you guys have such good customer service that you're able to like really make it super bite sized and really easy to do. Like it might just be 15 minutes. So I encourage anyone who's working with Privy just to talk to your customer service person, because it makes the daunting task just not nearly as daunting. And even if you spend 15 minutes and it doesn't make you thousands and thousands of dollars, it's 15 minutes.
Yeah,
And,
book a
you know,
call,
yeah,
and it's like the good thing about email and marketing is that you don't need to do a lot to start seeing results. You
yeah,
need to continue to put time into it. But listen, if you have a welcome series and abandoned cart, you're already doing a lot better than most. And
yeah.
you'll pay for your monthly fee 10 times over with just those small things.
hmm And if it doesn't work and you try everything, then you cancel your Privy account and move
Exactly.
on.
There's no commitments. You get
Yeah.
back to refining your products.
Exactly. So, how are you approaching the next few years with Privy? I know you're just getting started, but it sounds like you got a lot kind of on the roadmap.
There's really no part of the application that we're not touching and not thinking through. And so, who we are is like Privy is a phenomenal fit if you are the co-founder of a brand or you are the sole marketer of a brand. If you have a 12-person marketing team, you're not going to use Privy. It's just not the right fit. And so it almost doesn't matter how big your store is. You could be doing 500,000 of GMB, you could be doing 10 million of GMB. We have one customer that over all their stores gets 40 million views. Massive, massive customers. But it's all about how do we help these small businesses be more successful? And there's no problem that we really don't want to tackle for them. And it's very much focused on, okay, how do I convert visitors into customers and then customers into loyalists? That is the lens that we're looking through with all of our product innovation. So, yes, the core is, list growth and on-site conversion tools, email marketing, SMS marketing, but it doesn't stop there. Like it's very much if products fit within that, short phrase, turning visitors into customers and customers into loyalists, we think we can provide that to our customers seamlessly. So where we're going over the next few years is really focused on helping merchants answer the question, what do I send and who do I send to in an increasingly automated yet personalized fashion. When I say automated, a lot of it is just shortening the time again from inspiration to creation. It is allowing, just as merchants have many different entrance points to their brand, smaller price, lower price points, higher price points. We want to do the same with Privy, that we're
Mhm.
not going to force you into a plan that doesn't make sense for your business. If you just want to focus on list growth and use our, completely top of the line list growth tools and sync that to Klaviyo or PostScript, that's fine. If you just want to use this for SMS, because we have some of the lowest cost, no commitment SMS product out there, great. If you want to use it for everything, perfect. We can work with you and design strategies that touch on all three of those because we're chatting with you weekly, bi-weekly, monthly, whatever cadence you want, we're available to chat with you. And that's really where we want to go. We want to be flexible. We want to meet businesses where their needs are and
Mhm.
not lead with a one size fits all approach.
Amazing. Well, to wrap up here, if you could give yourself one piece of advice when you were just starting out, what would it be?
Take a long term view because some days feel like you're making no progress. Some days feel like you're on top of the world. And I think that's just how you feel as a business owner or an entrepreneur. And that if you don't allow yourself to kind of step back, look at all you've done in the past, or take a long term view, which is, I'm not seeing the result from this initiative or this hire yet. Do you have the right ingredients? Do you have the right inputs? Because those will pay off, even if you don't see the immediate results today. So, focusing on those fundamentals, taking a long term view is completely necessary to avoid kind of making stupid mistakes at the end of the day.
Yeah.
We're not giving investments or initiatives enough time because you have to learn and you have to let that stuff compound. And you can't see a compound until you kind of look back in the rearview mirror and see where you came from.
I love that. I feel like every single business owner I know is so deep in the weeds. And if they just zoom out, they can see one, how far they've come, which is always very nice to remind yourself of. but also just it's easier to see the future when you zoom out. So that's a great piece of advice. Where can people find you online?
Yeah, you can follow me on LinkedIn. Just search my name, Alex Pearson, or search Privy, and you'll find me. And going forward, I'll be posting on there 3 to 4 times a week. And their content is really meant for merchants, like bite-sized educational content that will help you provide value. Obviously, showcase what we're up to here, Privy, and a bunch of new functionality that we're unveiling. But really, my job is to get the Privy word of mouth out there, showcase the Privy brand, highlight customer stories, highlight stories like what you're doing, Courtney, and just honestly like share the good vibes all around. So you can always email me, you can always get in touch with me, and I look forward to hearing from any merchant about how we're doing at Privy.
Amazing. Yeah, I'm so excited to see what Privy does in the near future and the far future. So go ahead and follow Alex Pearson. And thank you so much for being on the show, Alex. This was a really great conversation.
Courtney, I really appreciate it, and thank you so much.
And thank you to everyone at home for listening. If you enjoyed today's episode, please make sure to subscribe, share it with a friend, leave us a review. And if there's anything you'd like to hear on an upcoming episode, just let us know. For more insights and behind the scenes stories, follow us on LinkedIn or visit rightleftagency.com. And we'll be back next week with more stories of success, innovation, marketing, and strategies to help you grow. So see you next time.